Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. You've reached Black Authors Matter TV, and it's November 7th. We're in the month of November, and we missed you all last week, but we were resting from the amazing National Black Book Festival, so we needed a week off. Plus,
I was about to say, I didn't miss anybody. I needed that rest.
I needed the rest. I'm still not 100%. I still can't stay awake late like I used to. Anyway, I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we have a great lineup tonight. All of these authors have recently released books. So we're going to be among their first interviews. And we're going to be giving away one book tonight. But before we do that, we have a video we want to show you about Black Authors Matter TV.
Since the Black Authors Matter TV live stream show and podcast launched in July 2020, it's been regarded as the platform of record for African American literature. Co-hosted by literary influencers Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson, the show averages 3,000 viewers and listeners every week. Every Tuesday, we interview a variety of movers and shakers in the literary world, including celebrities and media commentators, NAACP Image Award nominees and winners, historians, agents and marketing professionals, publishers, bookstore owners from coast to coast, book club facilitators, online book groups and book chats, book event coordinators, literary nonprofit organizations and projects, and, in some cases, Black Authors Matter TV has conducted one of the last interviews prior to a literary influencer's transition. In fact, since the show's inception 3 years ago, Black Authors Matter TV has interviewed more than 500 guests, and the list continues to grow. Engaging, relatable, timely, and most of all, committed to excellence. Black Authors Matter TV continues to bring viewers the latest book industry news and new releases, and will continue to do so for years to come.
A great video.
So this is Rhonda's first time seeing the video, and it's a compilation. It lets people know in a concise way what Black Authors Matter TV is all about.
Yes,
so we're going to be showing that at the beginning of the next few shows, just like for the new people who just now tuning in, or for people who watch the show after the fact, they'll see that at the very beginning. It gives them an encapsulation, and it's also on our YouTube channel. So we are going to bring on our first guest, and our first two guests are authors with Black Odyssey Media, and that's the imprint from our great friend Entice.
Yes.
And she was at the festival with her crew, and she was just sharing all her information on taking a book to a film. She's always so willing to share with people. So our first guest is Aries Skye. And Aries' book is called Love on the Ninth Floor, and it's her debut novel. And she is with Black Odyssey Media, as I said, Entice. So she's under the umbrella of Entice and Black Odyssey Media. So Aries, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. And I see you wearing your t-shirt. Oh, you need to unmute so we can hear you.
Can you hear? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome to the show.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, and I have on the t-shirt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Looking good, girl. Looking good.
Thank you. Thank you.
The t-shirt looks really good on camera. You know, when people wear it, it really does pop. So, and we sold a ton of them at the festival. We sold out of some sizes. We sold a ton of them.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. So, Aries, you have a brand new book. It came out a couple of weeks ago, October 24th.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. And
Thank
this is your
you.
debut novel. Is this your debut novel overall or your debut novel with Black Odyssey Media?
So this is my debut novel. Okay, it's a little trick to that, but let me say overall and with Black Odyssey Media.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like this isn't the first thing you've written.
No, it's not.
I'm
Okay.
about to say, because you sounded like you weren't sure if you wanted to say that or not.
Yeah, I had to kind of tailor it a little bit. I was like, well, it's both, but not, but yes.
Yeah. So did you have a copy of your book with you so you can show the cover?
Oh, let me grab a copy. So here is a copy. If y'all can
Okay.
see it, that
Love
is
on the ninth floor.
look, it's blurred out, but
You have to
that's
hold it
When you
closer
put
to
it
you.
closer to you, put it close.
There
Yeah.
you go,
When you
right
put it
there.
there
closer
we
to
go.
you. Love on the ninth floor.
That's
So
it.
now just from the imagery, she sounds like it looks like she uh may be having some sort of encounter
Yeah, so what's going
on
on
the
the
ninth
ninth
floor,
floor?
something that making her swoon or feel good or whatever.
What's going on the
So
ninth floor?
I was
That's
say,
what I
what's
want to
going on
know.
the ninth floor? So what happens is this is such a cute title. So it's about a dentist named Nisi. She's a young lady. She is about her business, has always been focused on education, her career, and it just has not made time, for love at all. And she's not actively looking, but it's just one of those things where she's not like a dater. She wants to be in a real relationship whenever she does find that person. But that's kind of not in the forefront of her mind, although her sisters and her best friend want it to be. And they're like, girl, you got the career now. It's time for you to go ahead and try to get a man. So she's just like, I'm not feeling it. But she goes to work and she gets on this elevator at work. And she's always complaining about how slow the elevators are. And she's like, this top-notch facility. We got these slow elevators. And the elevator breaks down when she's on her way to lunch with her best friend who works in the same building. She's the only one on there. So they try to get her out and she can't get out. She works on the ninth floor, which is the tie-in to the novel, which
Okay.
they get fire and rescue there. And the man who opens up the door, she's like has this aha glorious angel moment. And she's like, she was hungry, her ankle was sprained. She was like, forget all of that. I'm focused on this fine fireman. And where is he? And how can I get to him? So that is where the love on the knife floor, because she literally just sees this man and she's like, that's it. It's like it was love at first sight for her. So that's where it comes from.
Okay. They have not so much policemen, but firemen. They have calendars of firemen,
Yes, they do.
posing in their masculine poses, sometimes
That's a nice way
shirtless.
to put it, Gwen.
Yeah.
She put it so sweet, didn't she?
So it's common for I like the fireman angle because that's a good angle.
Yes, and that's what she when she sees him, she describes him to a T. She's like, she's like talking about he's in his turnout pants with his navy blue t-shirt on and his fire hat turned backwards, and he has this gleaming smile and this tattoo sleeve on his arm. And she's just like everything about him, she takes it in
I
all
like
in
it.
one good shot.
I like it.
Okay. So then the story unfolds from there about what happens between what's the character's name? What's the main character's name?
So the female main character's name is Niecy Richards, and
Okay.
then the main male character's name is Kanan Jordan.
Okay.
And she actually is TikTok famous. Her office does like TikTok videos. So they've become TikTok famous. And so kind of all of their individual accounts have amassed this crowd of people. And so because she forgets, he introduces himself while the door is still closed. But once the door opens and paramedics come in, she like forgets his name. So her sister, who is social media illiterate, is like, why don't you use that top tick thing to try to do a video to see if you can locate him? And so she does, and it goes ultra viral.
Ooh,
And that's how they reconnect.
you gotta love a good viral love story now.
Yes.
I don't know how common that is or like how real it is, but it sounds like it's interesting for the plot of a story.
Yes, yes. They actually I based it in Miami. So what happens is she asked all of her followers to tag like all of the fire and rescue places in Miami and see or tag a fireman. And so now you have all of these people, these celebrities and these other people who are tagging the stations or people they know. And so it's his best friend who's actually a fireman as well. And his brother, actually, who owns a gym, they see it, and both of them call him up like, "Did you see this video?" Like,
I can actually see that happening because right now in this age, people love a trend. And if that, and I'm seeing that this was a hashtag that just kind of spread like wildfire, and everybody wanted to see what was going to happen. I could see this actually happening in real life.
Yes, and so he got deemed hashtag Mr. Fire and Rescue, hashtag Mr. Find a Fireman. So like, and she was hashtag that Dennis chick. So like, they had this whole thing, TikTok became like an entire character of its own, and this
Okay. And that happens where some inhuman or unhuman, not inhuman, but an inanimate thing becomes a character. Sometimes it might be a town, a city, or it could be a building, or in its own. And
yes,
TikTok is a real thing. I'm not on TikTok, so everything that I hear about TikTok is new information for me. I don't
yes.
know about, the only thing I know about TikTok is when I click, I like cats. So some of the cat videos that come across.
It's amazing how popular those cat videos have
Cats
become.
are so cool.
Cat and the dogs.
Behavior.
Listen, you
So
will love they do now comedians do voiceover to the animals. Those are
yes,
hilarious to me. It's
I've
hilarious.
I've seen some voiceover ones, but they were always ones that somebody either sent me or tagged me in. They weren't ones
Yes,
where I was on TikTok and found, but they are hilarious. The voiceovers.
they are.
Some people are very talented with just coming
Yes,
up with a story for the animal that they were doing the voiceover for. It's really
yes.
can be funny. So, but yeah, the cat videos that's what I click mostly. That and because I try not to click too many different things because then the algorithm
And
will
yeah,
flag out.
that's what all they're gonna send you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I do that, and I do African wedding dancing.
Okay.
So all these different African weddings, some of the just the clothes that people are wearing, the dresses, and then the dances that the bridal party will do, the women and the men. The men
Yes.
do some really good dancing where they have a routine, and it's always very elaborate. The
Yeah,
ones
Yes.
that's what I like about the African weddings. They go all
they go
out.
all
They're
out.
they're an
Yes.
entire week-long production.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
love I love it too. And they get really creative. Like with a lot of the wedding videos, they're so creative. It's one that is trending right now that I really like, and it was the groom and his groomsmen. They were dancing to one of Usher's songs, but they were their kappas. So they did like this entire kappa step,
oh,
smooth stroll
okay.
routine for his wife, and I was like,
Okay.
"Oh, this is so cute. This is actually really nice."
Yeah. It's just some people have gotten very creative with just their activities and the things that they do, and they're putting them on TikTok, which is interesting. I'm going to a wedding on Thursday. Normally, this is not a day that's typically a wedding day, but I'm going
Probably cheaper
to the
though.
wedding on Thursday at 3:30, and one of my daughter's best friends, and my daughter's in the wedding, so I'm
Okay.
going to that. So they might have some stuff. Some of their
They
stuff on
might.
TikTok. They
Hey,
might.
They and I, like I said, I really applied it since that was the way they met in the story. I really embraced that part of it. There's a whole nother scene in the book where she's actually talking to elementary school. Like they have this community initiative they end up at together with the fire station and her office. And so they're talking to first graders and she's talking about dental health. Of course, they're talking about fire safety. And they are like, they recognize her. They're like, we want to do a TikTok. So she's like, okay, I'll do a TikTok with you. So she does one, with the kids just for fun. And then she records another one with the permission of the teachers. And then they do a TikTok at the end. It was like, it became its own,
Yeah.
thing.
TikTok was a major thing in there. They should give you some kind of commission.
Right.
I need to contact them for real.
making it famous, or it's already famous, but just making it so people have some different ideas about different things they can do on TikTok. So that would be good to promote somehow for TikTok.
Exactly.
So I don't know if you have any TikTok videos about your book, but that would be really neat if you don't yet.
Yes, I have some out about my book, and so they've been doing really good. They were more character focused and just talking about the book and stuff. But that's a good idea. I'm gonna have to contact you.
Yeah,
like, listen.
marketing tips.
So I see the book was released just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, in October 24th.
That's awesome. How's it going so far? No, are you still on the high?
I'm still on the high with it. I love it. The people who just embrace this story, like look, the actual book talkers who've embraced this story, they have been phenomenal. They have done some really creative videos on TikTok surrounding the book, which it makes me laugh. It's hilarious. And so
follow you on TikTok. I need to see this.
Yes, they've really done some cute videos. Even putting together their own mini trailers, for the book. I'm like, I didn't even have to get a book trailer. I got these out between these book talkers, but that has been the most amazing. So then I even created a book box for it. I call it the Skye Stories book box, and the book, the front of the book box is literally like the picture of the model, and it has the elevator. You see the number 9, and I wanted to incorporate 9 things inside of the box that all played off the theme of the book. So all of this, there's the book, of course, that's inside, but then there are other items inside of the book box that just speak to the story itself. So people have really enjoyed that. The ones who've gotten the box, they're like, this was like the cutest idea. So that is another thing that they've been doing. So I'm still riding really high.
Well, keep riding that high because it sounds like it's going great. And if you've gotten the attention of the book talk community, you're doing really well.
Yes. I was so happy about that. They flopped. I was, I really thought I was gonna have to work really hard to get that attention, but they flocked almost immediately to it, and I was
awesome.
really thankful for that.
That's very awesome. Congratulations on that.
That is, because that kind of buzz and word of mouth, you can't really buy that. That has to be the natural extension of people enjoying your book and the theme behind your book. One of the things that you mentioned in the plot, which is very common these days with women, now that women are going to college and graduate school and even further, and their careers are really taking off. A lot of women find themselves early 30s and looking for love, like you said, because they've been focused on their careers. And when you have a career, especially if you're in a field where it's very competitive and you're competing with men, for positions, you have to focus in order to advance. A lot of the jobs, the high paying jobs will require you to work 60, 70 hours a week. So, or more than that. And so it requires focus. But then sometimes time goes by and then you look around and you say, okay, my biological clock is ticking And,
Mm-hmm.
and I need a man to go with it as far as, I can't.
Yeah.
And
You know,
that's become a topic now. I think on the grill, I think, oh, what's her name? Ebony K. Williams. She had a
Yes,
whole
Ebony K. Williams.
conversation about it, and she's like now encouraging young women to, while they go for the doctor, to go for the MRS, as they say, as well, and like do
Yes.
it at the same time. While you're trying to get your, your MA and your PhD, you
yeah.
go and get your MRS at the
Yes.
same time. It's very just like, they said they talk about the struggle of, being an older woman, being so focused on your career for so long that the dating pool gets very, very slim. And then they're talking about, time is running out to actually start a family. It gets to the point where they're having to gauge, do they just not want to have children, because they're becoming a certain age. And so she's like, yeah, if I could do it again, I would have gone back and just said, you know what, let me go and get this degree and this marriage at the same
MRS. Yeah. And but women are having children older now and
Yeah.
safely. They
Mhm.
are. It used to be a lot more dangerous.
Yeah.
Statistically, but women are having their first babies older. In their 40s. Some.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
So
and because people are, unfortunately, in this professional world where everything is like this now, women are also often being forced to choose. Do you want your career or do you want
Right.
motherhood? And if you want
Mhm.
motherhood, slowly they start to get edged out of their career. So many times they have to make that choice, and they are having kids older. It's a sad thing. I mean, I'm glad that I had my daughter in my 20s, but even then, I still felt older than a lot of other mothers. I had my daughter at
Yeah.
26, so I was already
Yeah.
a little bit older than some other mothers.
Exactly. I understand that because, well, it's a difference, slight difference between my baby and my middle son. So I feel like now, because I had my baby son when I was 28, so I was close to the 30. But my older son, I had him like 20, 23 or 24, something like that. But even in that small gap of a difference, now I feel like the older and me and my husband feel like the older parents was our baby son because the parents were younger, when they had their kids. So
Mhm.
it's even, we still feel like whereas when my son was coming up, we felt like, oh, we're the younger parents, but now we feel like we're the older parent. And it's so strange because you would think that they had like a 15-year age gap and they don't, but it's like even that span, like you said, of time, you still kind of feel older, because people were having kids a lot younger. And it's an interesting conversation because I have a friend, she went to college, she's got a PhD, she was the head of pediatrics for Yale, and she and I talked, and
Wow.
she was just like, girl, I wish I would have been like you and started my family early now. So it's so funny because it's like we kind of reversed. Got married young, had a family young, and so now I'm just kind of like on my career path. And she's like, "Well, I started out with my career path, and now I'm older, trying to have shit. I'm trying to run behind these babies."
they do require energy for sure. We were older than all of Sylvia's friends' parents. And my husband actually technically is old enough to be her grandfather. Some people thought he wasn't. so,
Mm.
so, you know, but here's the thing. When now I'm not old enough to be a grandmother, but actually nowadays
I'm
people
never going to be
becoming
old enough to be a
grandmothers
grandmother. I don't care
very
how old I am.
but what I found was I had already done all the things, most of the like fun stuff, the adventurous stuff I wanted to do already. So when I had her, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. And we did
Mm-hmm.
a lot of traveling when she was young. And for business, my husband and I were in business together, and we would take her with us everywhere. And she was really a great traveler, on the plane and anywhere we would go. she was just such a good baby. We would take her everywhere. So, but I was ready at the time I had her to be a mother. I had
Right.
done all the other stuff, the adventure stuff. The 20s is the decade
Exactly.
of adventure. That's in your 20s when you do all this
Be
stuff
adventure,
that
Yeah.
do all the stuff.
you look back on and you say, oh, thank God that didn't turn out, could have turned out really badly.
Right. And I think that you made a really good point too. It's about when you said that you were ready. So, and I think that's another thing. You just have to be ready for it. I
Absolutely.
mean, we're in well, or you got to get ready.
Yeah,
Depending on the
yeah, whether or
situation.
not you're ready,
You gotta get ready if the child is coming. You have to get ready. So, but I think it's a beautiful thing when you're able to make that choice and you
Mhm.
know that you're prepared and you're ready to handle that responsibility because it's a
Right.
lifetime commitment.
It is. It's not to 18. I mean,
Right.
a lot of the responsibilities is until 18, but it's a lot. Things happen with your children when they
Yeah.
get over 18, where they need your help, or they need your advice, or they need to reboot. And
Yes.
sometimes that happens, or just things happen, and so your children really always need you, and they need your advice. And see, when they get older, they realize they need your advice. When they're
Yes.
young, they dismiss all your advice like you're too old and you don't get it, and 10 times more they know. But but as they get older, they realize your advice, and then they start to remember some of the things that you have been telling them
Exactly.
all along, that they just kind of dismissed it. But then it clicks.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's all part of the maturing process. So we have a few minutes left. Did want to find out, um, did you get a 2-book deal? Is there a follow on book to this one with Black
Yes.
Odyssey?
Now, this story is a standalone, but
Okay.
it's a standalone series. So she
Okay.
has two other sisters. Nisi has a sister named Angela and a sister named Akila. And so each of the sisters will have their own book. And so
Okay.
I know everybody always says, well, how did she get up with the name Nisi? So the quick story on that is in the book it's revealed, but they thought she's the baby of the bunch, and so the parents thought that she was going to be a boy, so she was supposed to be named after her father. His father's name was Desante, but then when they found out they were having a third girl, he was like he wanted to keep it, so they shortened it to Nisi, and so that's how she became Nisi. She has
Oh,
sisters named Angela, Akila, so they will each have their own story, but the second
okay.
book with Angela comes out next, and it is called Love on the Rebound.
Okay.
Okay. Still about love on the
Yes.
rebound. Okay.
All right, love on the rebound, because that can be taken a lot of different
It
ways. So
can. It
either
can.
way, it sounds juicy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Either way. Well, show your book cover again, and then tell people where they can
Yeah.
get a copy of Love on the Ninth Floor.
So this is Love on the Ninth Floor, and I want to give a special shout out to Brianna Cole and Denisha Little, who gave me early blurbs, and they were so phenomenal for doing that. So I want to just want to thank them for that too. And this book is in paperback, it's an ebook, it's an audio book, and you can
Awesome.
purchase it on. Thank you. You can purchase it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart. Um, Target. I think that's it. And then, of course, if you want to come through me to get a personalized Sky Stories book box, I have my own website, which is well, actually it's www.payhip.com/Aries Sky. So
Okay. All right. Well, congratulations again on your new book.
thank
And I'm
you.
glad that it's taking off. And that's always good news with the
That's
release.
absolutely great news. And I mean,
Mhm.
I'm loving the fact that you had the TikTok
TikTok.
community. I
Yeah,
think that's awesome.
that is
Yes,
So I,
that
I will
is.
be following you on TikTok so I can see
Thank
what's
you.
going on here.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yes, I said I had to. I told him, I said, I calmed down with TikTok for a while because I got addicted to it. I got addicted to it, but I'm still posting at least like one TikTok a day. I was hitting them up like 2 or 3 times a day at first.
Yeah, I haven't posted my TikTok for today. I'll be doing it after the show. So I'm posting it a little late today, but it's coming.
It's coming.
Okay, well, I will only see it if somebody tags me or sends it to me on a direct message. So far, I haven't, because I don't want to be. It is addictive, from what I hear. It can really.
It can be addictive.
Be.
You will start scrolling and looking at videos.
Mhm.
The next thing
And
you know,
then an
hours
hour
have
will
gone
have
by.
passed. So
Yeah.
I need
Exactly.
Well,
So-
Mary Evans wants to know your TikTok, so I am putting it in the chat for her.
Okay.
Yes.
It's
It is.
TikTok.com how do you say authoritarian Skye?
Author Aries Skye.
Oh shoot, I'm reading this all wrong. You're right. Author Aries Skye.
Aries
I'm like,
Skye,
what is
okay.
authoritaries?
It is fine.
Okay.
It's just Author Aries Skye. Yes, that is
Okay.
it.
Okay, well, I just put it in the chat for Mary so she can follow you on TikTok as well.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. I'll follow back.
Okay. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you, ladies, for having me.
Thank you for being here. Have a great night and best wishes to you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that was Aries Skye, and she has a new book called Love on the Ninth Floor. And our next guest is also an author with Black Odyssey Media. But before we bring our next guest on, I wanted to thank the people who mentioned my book, Exodus from Treachery. Lydia said she really liked it, and I appreciate that. So the book that I'm giving away tonight is the first book in my series, The Genesis Files. I redid the cover because I wanted it to match Exodus from Treachery. So I will give the trivia question after the end of this next interview. And then the story didn't change at all. I just changed the cover because I wanted to match Exodus from Treachery. So you all can be, and it's an autographed copy that I'm giving away. So.
Oh, okay, fancy.
Yeah. My reviews for Exodus from Treachery are really excellent so far. So I'm very excited about that. So our next guest is Erick Gray, and he is also with Black Odyssey Media. And he has a new book. It has a very short title. It's called Gun, G-U-N. And we want to welcome him to Black Authors Matter TV. So Erick, I don't see a little microphone there. Do we have sound?
It looks like he's still looking.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
You hear me?
Yes.
We hear you.
Okay.
Very interesting glasses you have on there.
Right. They're like old school back in the days, little, I had them for a few years. I always get comment on my glasses. People like, yo, I love your glasses. Where you get them from? And I actually forgot where I got them from. I had them for about 2 years now.
Are they prescription glasses or
Nah, they not. They're more
they're
just for style.
fashion glasses? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. All right. Well, welcome to the show and congratulations on your new release with Black Odyssey Media. And you have a simple title, Gun. So tell us what Gun is about, other than the obvious.
Well,
But
first of all, thank y'all for having me on your show. I appreciate it so much.
you're
You know,
welcome. Thank you for being a guest.
and gun is complicated. Well, I'm not gonna say complicated, but it's pretty much it's a urban supernatural thriller type of read. I wanted to do something different because I'm big on sci-fi, I'm big on you know supernatural stuff like vampires and everything. So gun is about a gun. Gun is about a 357 Magnum that the devil designed to corrupt man's soul. And whoever owns it corrodes their soul, and it gives them abilities, but at the same time, it makes them urge to be murderous and vengeful. So the protagonist, Omar comes from a good Christian home, but he lives in the projects. young boy, 20, grew up in poverty, and he grew up at the church, and he always like, "Ma, we grew up poor, we always praying, but we never have anything." And he's like,
Mm.
why do good people suffer? And it's in Brooklyn. He's being bullied. He's been ridiculed. So one day he gets assaulted by these bullies named Bryce. And what happened is as he's running, he finds a 357 Magnum. He pulls it out, and that's the first time he ever felt power. When he ever felt he was in control. And then it just takes it downhill from there. Like, and it's like it has a succubus in the story, because every night he's seduced by the succubus, the urge him to kill, to sin, and then he has a best friend that grew up in the church. Now it gets crazy because something happened to his friend, and he's being possessed by this weapon, and by having that power, see, I don't want to tell the story,
Don't
because
tell it all. But I
I
mean,
start
it
running,
sounds interesting.
It
I
does
start
sound
running my mouth
interesting.
off.
I'm all into it. I'm like, oh, I need to read
Me
this.
too. I'm saying,
Yeah.
okay.
I start with my mouth off, but I'm telling everything. That's what I say. I'm trying to word it where you can understand it, but at the same time, not give it all away. But
Well,
pretty
no,
much,
don't give us any spoilers. Don't give us
but pretty
the.
much, it's
Yeah.
about good and evil. It's about forgiveness. It's like, he's being possessed by this weapon because it's giving him the advantage of something he never had in his life, and it's changing his way of thinking from Christ to sin. And his best friend trying to say, "You changing," and he's like, "I never felt this before," and he want to continue, but it's just taking him someplace dark.
Mm.
But it's other characters in the story too, but he's the main focus, Omar.
Well, it just sounds real because I think that it happens with so many young people. They get a gun in their hand, and before they felt powerless. Now with the gun, they do feel like they have that power. They feel
Yeah,
like, okay, now you guys are going to respect me. You're going to hear what I have to say because now I have a gun.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's what I'm hearing as I'm hearing your story.
yeah. But this one becomes more of a twist though, and it's I have a detective involved in a case, and he's like he's more like he don't care who's the murder victim. He don't care who what. To him, it's like somebody died and it's a real bad person. But he's like his partner, like he's a piece of crap. Don't worry about it. But but he's still a victim. A murder is a murder. I don't care if he was a Martin Luther King, or if he was a drug dealer. I'm still, this is my job. And his partner like, but don't waste your time. But as he's involved in this case, involved in this 257, he finds being an uphill battle, and it's messing with his faith. And he feel out like, what's going on, but something dark is happening in this community, but he don't know what's happening. He's trying to investigate it, you know. So his name is Detective Green. That's his name. He's like, it's so far the people be like, yo, how did you come up with this idea? I'm like, I just said, it just came to me one night. I was just you hear it on the news, what's going on in the world, everything. It's just, and I sometimes be like, is this something sinister behind what's going on with these mass killers and shooters? Are they being possessed? Or are they that dark? Because like, what makes you go and shoot 15, 10 people, and then want to kill yourself, or then don't kill yourself? I be like wondering, man. 'Cause I question society sometimes. Like, well, why do people do what they do?
But that's
What's the
true,
motive behind that?
because that is true. You wonder how what motivates a person to do that, or what happened dark in their life to bring them to that
Yeah,
point, or
Right.
what is the catalyst? Like,
yeah,
these 5 things happen, but then number 6 is what made you go do it.
yeah,
Just wonder what is behind it. And some of it, to me, they seem like they're looking for fame after death.
yeah.
Some of that seems to be a motivation, but they could be. I think a person has to be possessed with something. I don't mean like a evil spirit, but
Yeah, but sometimes,
something to go and do that, even to people you know or people you don't know.
yes,
Right.
Sometimes people just shoot strangers. I mean, why? I mean, why'd you destroy, if you 10 families? Because you really instantly destroy 10 families when you do that. Well, whatever the number is.
Yes. So, and I did when I was going to school, I took up psychology and human behavior and everything like that. I was studying it's like, sometimes it says a mental thing. I like mental illness is real. I've seen it, and I've seen it. Like I seen people like they just one day and the next day like they deteriorated. I'm like, and it's sad, and I see it out here, and I said, I wrote an article I wrote an article in this magazine called Intellectual Ink about Black men and mental health. And like one thing we don't acknowledge that as we should, especially the Black community, mental health. How we need to go about it, how we treat it, because I had a friend that killed himself 10 years ago, and I always question that, like, why would you do that? Like he had 3 kids, and he just shot himself in the one. I don't want to be so dark. I want, but
I mean, it's real feelings.
Yeah,
though. I
it's
mean,
real life.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but
but
I have never known someone personally that committed suicide. Only like extension. Like I've known somebody who knew somebody. I've known somebody who was related to somebody, but I've never personally known anybody that committed suicide. But I've known people who seem suicidal. Sometimes people are it's a cry for help or cry for attention.
Right.
But then some people, they don't say anything. They just do it.
yeah,
There's no warning. And the people who are left behind, the family members are, I'm sure, wondering what they could have said or done, differently.
But you know what I learned though? I learned that in life you gotta have and find a purpose. You need to. That's what keeps a man going, a woman that going every day is a purpose. Like because I feel like if you wake up and you don't have nothing to look forward to, a purpose or a drive, and it's like it's gotta keep you. Like right now, I tell you right now, it's my kids and writing. Like my writing, me, that's my passion. Like
Yes.
it's therapeutic. It's like I can write about anything. I like poetry, like fiction. Sometimes I write a diary, and it's just like it's being a voice. It's just being a voice, and sometimes I feel like without it, man, it's like a heartbeat right now because. And to be published, and to see your works out there, and being on being interviewed, it's like wow. So that's why I tell people find something that you're passionate about, something that you love doing, you think about every day, no matter what. It could be something simple, something like it could be your family, or it could be your kids, it could be just working out, something. Man, that's I think
I agree with you. I agree with you. And now this isn't your first book, and you have over 24 novels.
Yeah, I have quite a few novels
Your
out there.
first book, it came out over 20 years ago because I think we carried it in our store, Booty Call. I'm pretty sure we had it in Kush City. And so you kept writing since then. And Booty Call, I'm sure that was about what it says.
Listen, I learned that. Listen, what I learned, like if you want to catch people's attention, you got to go have a good title and a good cover.
Yes, it's true. We say that all the time on this show.
Absolutely
and
true.
I cover that title. We were like Booty Call, and they were like, "What?" But then when they read the story, they're like, "Wow, that's a good story." It's a coming of age love story about love and about sex and about just growing up in an urban environment, about second chances and stuff. But some young ladies in there. Well, what's her name? Shayna. She was a little promiscuous. She'd have sex with a man, his best friend, and her mother's boyfriend. And she was just having the time of her life. And then they all kind of caught up to her at the end. Yeah.
Well, you're right about the title and the cover, because you want your title to be memorable, because
Yeah.
that's where you get the word of mouth advertising.
Right.
People can't, if people can't remember your book title, they can't tell other people about it.
Yeah.
So you want it to come to someone's mind like immediately.
That's why I like that. That's why I like the new title Gun. It's Gun. It just when people saw that cover, they're like, "Yo, what is this?" They're like, because you don't know. It's like it's just like self-explanatory. But you be like, "What gun is?" But then you read the synopsis, you be like, "Okay, I gotta check." Because it's like you put it on the shelf. It's just like you want to. It's like hit you in the face. Wow. Oh, what the hell is that? Word, That's what I'm like, and the covers they don't have to be too busy. They're just something that's
Right.
oh
Right.
Sometimes those are the best covers that don't have too much on them.
Yeah, too
I
much
think
on
it
them.
attracts attention better.
Yep, it's like too busy.
Yeah.
That's why I like that. I love
Simple
covers that do.
title and a simple
Simple
cover.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, especially first books, or maybe even not first books, but it's like they'll be trying to tell the story on their cover. They'll have like 3 people and 4 buildings and some
Yeah.
flowers.
Yeah.
And okay, no, you don't tell the story on the cover. Tell it inside the book. The
I
cover
learned
is
that from.
What's that?
I learned that from it was it's the Godfather when they had the behind the scenes, and it was like you want it to be a mystery, but at the same time, you don't, because if you take all this everything and it doesn't catch their attention. So the Godfather, like it's like, well, they had it's like a string, a puppet, it was like a
Yeah.
thing, and it was like, what was this about, And that's why it taught me, like, you know what, you want it to be to a point where they look at it like, what am I about to read? You don't know.
You do.
What I'm saying? What am I about to read? Like, what's this? So, and that's why I take my titles too. Like, I'll be seeing like Doug, Dick. And it's just cool, but sometimes I be like, just throw them off. Like, throw them off. Like, because I had what, Gun, One Life to Live. That was another good title that I actually made that to a film. I got 3 films out too, 3 movies.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you
On
about
BET
your film.
Plus, right?
Yeah, well, one is one film that I wrote is on BT Plus, Bid for Love, and then on I have No Better Love, which is on Tubi. That one's a crazy. Some people love that one. They're like, what? And then I got One Life to Live, which is on Tubi and Amazon Prime.
Okay. Now are these based on books? Were your films based on books?
Well,
Or were they just scripts that you wrote?
2 are based on my book. No Better Love is based on a story, and One Life to Live. Bid for Love was somebody came to me like, oh, they want to do a screenplay, so I collaborated with them. We wrote a screenplay, and they had put it on BET. I have about 2 more films might get into production next year. One is but we don't have an exact title, but one is going to be a bigger budget, and then another called Lady Boss. It's like a love story too. It's like, does she marry for love, or does she marry for money? And it takes place in Harlem. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, where do
Doing
you live?
good
Do you
things.
live in South Carolina? Where do you
I
live and where
live
you
in
from?
currently I am living in Greenville, South Carolina, but
Okay.
I am from Jamaica, Queens, New York.
Okay,
South
I thought
Yeah.
so. Well, one thing, you got a New York Yankees cap
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah. That's all I wear.
I still hear the accent. So,
No,
it's still there.
but people say, look, well, when I hear people like, hey, you got a southern, no, I don't. I said, no, I don't, because they say I've been down for over a decade now, and they say my accent changed. People down here say I sound like from New York, and people from New York say I sound like from down here. I don't know what they
I
confused
went through the
about.
same thing when I was I'm from New Orleans, and when I
Yeah.
go someplace else, oh, you sound like you're from New Orleans. I could tell. But then in
Yeah.
New Orleans, oh, you sound country. You don't sound like you're
Yeah,
from
yeah. I'm like, what do I sound like? It's like,
But you know what it is? People from home know what home is supposed to sound like.
yeah.
Other
So,
people just think they know what home is supposed to sound like.
and it's crazy because my mother's from Barbados and my father's from here, from South Carolina. So
Oh, okay.
I had a Caribbean mother and a Southern father. So, you know,
wow.
and they
Oh.
both cook. So,
Well, that's
so
good, especially
yeah,
around the holidays. I bet you all have. So, is their cooking a mixture of Caribbean food and
green food, black eyed
Southern
peas,
food?
plantains,
Okay,
and
Nice.
oxtails, and
okay,
ribs, and fish cakes, all these back and forth.
okay. All
So
right. So how did you get into the filmmaking? And you've done some acting. You said you've done some.
well,
Yeah.
I've had to be behind the scenes to act. Acting is it's harder than you think it is, but how I got a film, it's a crazy story. That's why. All right, I'll tell the story. So back in 2004, I was hanging out with this filmmaker. It was Ron Haywood in Queens. So we used to hang out in Queens, and he introduced me to another filmmaker, producer, Zodiac. So we met in 2004. So he gave me his call, and I talked. But then when I talked to him at the time, it was like I felt like he was brushing me off. So I thought, man, he ain't serious about me. True story. That's why I tell people, listen, don't ever get offended. Just, you know, keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing. So what happened was when I write a new story, I just send an extra emails. So I had kept his email address on file. So fast forward 4 years later, I'm working on the short story. So I said, I want to get people's feedback. So I sent out an email blast, like a quick excerpt of my stuff. I kid you not, about 20 minutes later, I get an email from him. Yo, who wrote this? This is really good. Yo, oh my God. Who are you? And we had met 4 years.
Okay. Oh,
Oh,
He
there he
didn't,
is.
okay. Yeah.
he didn't remember me. So I was like, so I said, he gave me his number. So I said, yeah, this is so-and-so. He said, we started talking. He said, where you from? Queens. Where you from? Queens. We both from Queens. So he said,
Okay.
yo, I need a writer like you. You know, where you can you come meet me next tomorrow night, something at my house? So I went to meet him, right? So I went to his house. He got the gold plaques, all this in the wall. You know, it's kind of intimidating. You like, wow, he's a music producer. And he done stuff with 50. He done stuff with Tupac. He done stuff with Lost Boys. He done stuff with a lot of
Nice.
artists. So he had invited a rapper, AZ. I don't know if you remember AZ.
What's the
The
name?
rapper, AZ.
AZ. I don't know about that.
I don't
But
know
he's a
about.
rapper. All right,
Okay.
so we had an impromptu meeting right there, like after the phone call after yesterday, and he's like, "Yo, this rapper wanted to do a film. He wanted me to write a script." And I was like, "All right," I said, "I could do it." Now, mind you, I had never wrote a script a day in my life. All I did was novels. So I'm
Well,
like,
you can write. You can write, and then you can always look at it. It's the scriptwriter's Bible. There's a book called, I think, the Scriptwriter's Bible, or something like that.
yeah.
You
Well,
can get
I'm
resources.
tell you what happened. So they're like, I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, yo, what are you doing? What are you talking about? You can't write no script. So I'm sitting there like, yeah, I can do this. So I'm smiling, but then they were like, all right, they pictured me the story. And then they said, well, can you write? I said, yeah. So I said, can you write it in 2 weeks? Oh, yeah, I
Oh,
can write
wow.
it in 2 weeks. I'm
Okay.
like,
And
yeah,
you don't know what you're doing, but you're going to learn, though.
yeah, I know that. So I'm sitting in the meeting like, I'm like, wow. I'm like, what the F you doing? So all right. So it was about a 40-minute meeting. We talking. So I leave there. I'm like, yo, what the fuck I got into? But you know what I learned though is like when you have an opportunity in front of you, do not let
Yeah,
fear hinder it.
exactly.
So
Right.
what happened was I got on the phone. I called my boy Anthony White. I said, yo, he gave me a book, said Phil's to read about screenwriting. I went home. I downloaded like 10 screenplays, read them overnight, just reading them, study the format. And I'm reading. And then I started writing it. And I finished it in 2 weeks and he loved it.
Oh.
I was like, I really like it. It's like, yo, you like this joint? I'm like, what?
So
I'm saying,
at the time, did he know
yeah.
you had never written a screenplay? And
So
did you tell him later? Not then,
nah,
like
I never
years
told him.
later. Did you
But
ever
no,
tell
it's
him?
funny. But like, unfortunately, his deal fell through But I didn't care because I got it done. And I was like, yo, I was like, okay. And so that kind of catapulted me to the screenwriting thing. And then what you're saying, like networking, like I used to be out here networking. I'm the type of person like I'm gonna put myself in the room somehow. I'm gonna figure it out.
Okay.
And it's just like it's just talking, networking, and just be consistent, be motivated, and then and just be have it like you gotta have. It's good to have talent, but talent gotta come with determination, consistency. You can't be scared. You can't let fear hinder you. You can't let it impede you. We're like I see people do it all the time. They doubt themselves. I don't know. I don't stop saying you don't know. Just try, man. If you fail,
Right.
do it again. If you failed, every successful person always been a failure.
Yeah,
Always been a failure.
If I had to fail at something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing ventured, nothing gained. You can't get anything if you don't try to do
yeah,
something.
yeah. The only
That's
time
just
you fail
it.
if you don't try.
Yeah, you'll fail just automatically if you don't try. So,
And I
and
said, and I said,
I tell people, what's the worst thing that can happen?
yeah,
You won't be any worse off than you are right now because you don't have the opportunity now. So if
yeah.
you pursue it, then it might
yeah.
work, or you
The
might,
worst thing, the worst thing
come up.
that can happen. The worst thing that can happen is if you like later on you have regret.
Right,
You
that's true, and you
regret.
don't want to do that.
You
You
don't
don't
want
want to.
regret
So,
because
do you have a copy of your book, Gun, handy that you can show on the screen?
yeah. I got one. Hold on.
Okay,
Wait,
because we
hold
want to make sure.
on, right here.
Okay. Another one. But we want to make sure when people order the book, they order the correct book.
There
And
you are.
so that's why
That's it.
we always
That's good.
hey, yeah, so you just got bullets on there, not
Yeah,
the actual gun itself.
yeah,
So
yeah. I just got the shell.
cartridges. Or is
Yeah.
that one's a cartridge, one a bullet and one's a cartridge?
No, it's the shell casing. Yeah, the shell
Oh,
casing.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
All
mean, the
right.
gun's already been fired. This is what's left behind in the crime scene.
Well, that sounds interesting. A gun that's possessed, or the person's possessed, or they're
Yeah,
both possessed, or and that's really not that far from the truth. Sometimes people do let a weapon take control. That sounds like an interesting plot. So, what do you have coming up? What you have your next book in the
yeah.
pipeline?
Well, I got my next book is coming out. It's called Butter Soft. That's coming out in March next year. And then I got Solomon Dog. Solomon Dog is about a slave that becomes a vampire in 1850 South Carolina.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
See what I'm doing is I'm creating this universe where
Okay.
it's a universe where like they got Marvel. My it's gonna be all black characters. Like so, Gun is like the catalyst for what is going on. And then I got Solomon Dog. His name's Solomon. He's a slave in 1850, and he's married. It's like a love story, but it's a vampire novel too. And he becomes a slave. And
Mm.
then I got Bronco. Bronco takes place in 1950. That's about like a Luke Cage character who can see the dead. He's like a mercenary for the dead for like the when you see like with Emmett Till, it's like Emmett Till ghost comes to him because he never received justice. So
Right.
Bronco,
Wow.
mercenary character who takes justice for the dead in the 1950s in like Mississippi somewhere, and he's a World War II veteran, and he's haunted by visions of ghosts, but they come to him for help at the 18 because
Oh,
yeah, I got crazy stories,
you
so
do. You
I
got some crazy
see.
stories. You got a vivid imagination, and
I do.
that's what is
Yeah.
required for good fiction. So, thank you, Eric, for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it so
Continue
much.
I enjoyed talking with you.
with all.
Yeah,
Congratulations on everything.
thank you so much.
Okay, and you have a great evening.
Y'all too.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
good night. Okay, so we are moving right along here, and we are going to give away a copy of the Genesis files. So, people who read both these books, especially the new one, the Exodus from Treachery, they're all telling me that this needs to be a series or a movie. I don't think it'll work as a movie because it's too much information.
Well, they know
Both
how
of the
to
books
they know
need
how
to
to
be a
whittle it
series.
down. You know, Black Cake is a movie now.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't. Well, isn't it a series in a different
It's a
episode?
series, not exactly a movie.
Yeah.
It's a series.
So I don't know. I would love for it to be, but it would have to be told properly. But anyway, that's something I could work on and look forward to in the future.
Yeah.
So to get an autographed copy of the Genesis Files, here is your trivia question. Lloyd Palmer, he's the main character for this book. He has an editor. What is his editor's name? He's a journalist. Lloyd is a journalist. He has an editor. What is his editor's name? And the first person to get the editor's name gets an autographed copy of the Genesis Files. So we are going to move right along. Our next guest is Dylan Penningroth, and he has a new book called Before the Movement, The Hidden History of Black Civil Rights.
Oh.
And it just came out the end of September. So it's a new title as well. And we welcome Dylan to Black Authors Matter TV. And I believe Dylan is a professor. Normally when people have all those books behind them.
Only 2 so far.
So
welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Now, your book came to our attention because it's called Before the Movement. And so much of history is centered around either slavery, the abolition of slavery and Reconstruction, and then the Civil Rights Movement. And a lot of the period between Reconstruction and Civil Rights is not focused on as much. So that's what really made your title interesting, because your subhead is Before. It's about the hidden history of Black civil rights. So first, what made you select this as your topic? And what is the hidden part?
Well, that's a great question. Honestly, I think, whenever you're a history professor or really a scholar of any kind, you have more than one reason for choosing a topic. And one of those reasons is usually personal, and it's no different in my case. I had scholarly reasons. I was interested in the concept of civil rights. I was interested in African-American history from all the way back in college. But the reason that I chose this topic, I think, really comes from honestly listening to stories at family get-togethers. You just hear
that's
things.
Huge.
Yeah.
So when you say you were listening to stories, are you talking like basically family accounts?
Yes.
Wow.
You hear things, that older people are saying, and most of the time I didn't pay attention. I had toys to play with and so forth. But I heard things over the years. Some of them, I guess, stuck. And one of them that really made an impression, my uncle made a recording. This is when I was 5 years old, so I was too young. But he made a recording of his great uncle, a man named Thomas Holcomb.
Wow.
And Thomas Holcomb's father was an enslaved man in Cumberland County, Virginia, sort of on the south side of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And on the recording, Thomas Holcomb tells all about the family. My uncle's kind of asking him questions. And one of the very first stories that Thomas Holcomb tells is about how his father, Jackson Holcomb, owned a boat while he was a slave. And I just thought,
that's unheard of.
Yeah, what's that about? And not only that, he says he owned this boat, but toward the end of the Civil War, when the Confederates were losing at Richmond, they're trying to cross the Appomattox River. They come up to Jackson Holcomb, and he gives them a ferry ride across this river. And when they get to the other side, they paid him. And I thought, okay, that's kind of strange too. It sounds like they're treating him as if he has, number one, property.
Right.
Number two,
like
he's making bargains. Exactly. And so, both of those two things are civil rights. They're not civil rights the way that we think of them today, which is protection against discrimination by race. But they're civil rights in the 1865 notion of civil rights, which, if you look at the very first Civil Rights Act that this country ever passed, it guarantees the right to property,
right,
to contract, and the right to go to court, to sue and be sued. So that's what the book is really about. And that's why I call it before the movement. It's hidden in the sense that it's been there in plain sight all along. I think probably we all have older relatives. We probably all have family stories of people who were tithing at church, who were deacons on the deacon board, maybe secretaries at the church. Those are all legally meaningful positions. They actually mean something at law. And that is what I mean by hidden history.
Wow. So I like the fact that you called it hidden history, because I think sometimes when we look at our history, we look at, okay, there was slavery, and then all of a sudden there was the civil rights movement.
Right, exactly.
And forget that there was a lot that went on between those time periods.
Well, I think often when we remember that period between slavery and the civil rights movement, what we remember is a story of oppression. So you think about Jim Crow, right? Rosa Parks sat down on the bus. We all know that story, helped launch the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement was fundamentally about dismantling Jim Crow. And Jim Crow, of course, is this system. It's basically apartheid, like they had in South Africa.
Yeah.
But it's not just making Black people feel bad about themselves. It's not just humiliation. It's an interlocking economic political system that's designed to keep Black people at the bottom, contributing, working, but not earning their fair share. So segregation is about that. And the legal system in that traditional story gets painted as something that's fundamentally at odds with, an enemy of Black people, something that shut Black people out, that they didn't have access to, that they were scared of. And the center of that legal system is the county courthouse, this big Southern sheriff standing at the front doors, glowering, keeping out Black people. That's true. And the civil rights protesters of the 1960s, they kind of burned that into our collective imagination. But the fact is that many of the protesters, the marchers, had actually been in the courthouse before. The difference is they weren't trying to register to vote. They were there to do things like record a deed. You buy some land, you sell some land, you have to go to the courthouse, record the deed. You still have to do it today. Or someone does it for you. Chicago Title Company usually does it for you. So people are then, just as they are now, exercising these rights of property and contract. But that story gets lost in part because it doesn't fit the needs of the protesters of the 1960s, who are really interested in something bigger than the right to property and contract. They want to push back on the humiliation. They want voting rights. They want economic power of a different kind. So all of what they're saying is true. It's just that there's this story that gets lost that's actually sort of more in touch with what people in 1900 were actually dealing with.
So it's more just I don't necessarily want to use the word practical, but more of the just everyday. If you have property to own it, you need a deed. Now, whether or not you had the protection of your property under the law, in many cases you did not. But we were allowed to own property because my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, one was a sharecropper, so he didn't own his property. And sharecropping was only really like one or two steps away from slavery, because you never did get ahead. I mean, but my mother's father owned his property, owned his farm, and he lost it in the Depression, the Great Depression. But then he bought another farm after the Great Depression. So I don't know if it's still in my family, because I'm not sure what happened to the property. A lot of people lose properties in the South because of the taxes.
This is absolutely true.
A lot of the family land.
The family land plays a big part in my book. Both the getting of it. You think about what's happening between the end of slavery and the civil rights movement. one big thing that's happening is a lot of Black people are acquiring land.
Yeah.
We owned 15 million acres in 1910. That's an
Mm.
astonishing amount.
That's
of land.
amazing. Yeah.
Yes. But
Now,
what's
was
really
this
weird,
nationwide or just in the
this
South?
is nationwide, but it's
Nationwide, okay.
mostly in the South.
Okay.
90% of it is in the South. And what's really strange about that is that, in 1890 to 1910, 1920, that's when you also have the highest number of lynchings. You have Black people being stripped of the right to vote. Segregation sets in. So all of this is happening at the very same time that Black land ownership is at its highest. So there is this story of civil rights that goes in different directions. Now, one thing that you pointed to a minute ago, when you were describing the two branches of your family, one of them sharecropping, one of them landowning. So if you're a landowner, you're involved in the system of property ownership. If you're a sharecropper, you're basically dealing with an employment contract. You get the right to live in a certain place, and you work in return for a share of the crop. You don't get that share until the end of the year. And just as you said, usually they would cook the books so that you didn't get, you came out behind.
Right.
What's fascinating about both those two things is that in order for either one of them to work, in order for white people to exploit sharecropping, and indeed in order for white people's own property titles to be safe, they have to recognize Black civil rights. So if you think about it, if you have a Black
that makes
person who's in the
sense.
chain of title,
Yes.
if you break the chain of title and you deny that Black person's property right, Chicago Title, if you're a white person, you go buy that land, Chicago Title is going to go and look, and they're going to find a break in the chain of title, and they're not going to insure it. You can't buy it. So white people's interest, they have an interest in guaranteeing, recognizing Black people's civil rights. And if I can just bring in for a moment a buzz phrase that a lot of people are trying to drag through the mud these days, critical race theory.
Yes.
Critical race theory is this movement that comes out of law schools, largely led by Black legal scholars. One of the leaders of it was a man named Erick Bell, and he's the one who identified what I'm just sort of putting a name to, interest convergence. If something could be good or could be in the interests of white people, then and only then will it be allowed to Black people. When the Black people's interests happen to converge with what white people need or want, that's when you're going to see advances in civil rights. And so I think that's what's going on with Black people's property and contract, and why white people let them have it and why they let them go to court.
You said a mouthful right there. You really did. I mean, and I'm just hoping that our viewers really, really heard what you said when it comes to critical race theory, because for me, I didn't understand critical race theory until I did my dissertation, and I realized how much it played a part in stereotyping, how much it played a part in education and so forth. And so I was an adult by the time I understood what critical race theory is. So for a lot of people, this is a new concept to them.
It's a new concept, and I think it's important that we not allow people who don't know anything about it to paint it as something that is bad or harmful. I mean, it's really just a set of tools for understanding the world. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but it's just a tool. You can pick it up, you can put it down. In my case, I found it really useful.
Love it.
Yeah, a lot of things that have a lot of laws and practices that really have race as the root or the foundation are so ingrained that we don't even realize that they're there. Some of it is, for housing, for example, is at the root of a lot of it. And, what we mentioned, a lot of people don't realize that. I didn't know the extent of the land ownership in terms of the acreage And I knew it was a lot, but I didn't know the extent in terms of the millions of acres that we actually had at the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century, that Black families had. And I don't know, do you know, because I haven't researched this, and did they save to get the land? Was it like willed to them by someone?
That's a great question. I think that a lot of people may have the sense that somehow it was given to them, either by the federal government, like the 40 acres and a mule, or by some kindly white neighbor or relative. But that's not what actually happened. The way that Black people, the vast majority of them, got their land was through hard work. And what's really important about that hard work is that it was organized mostly through families. And that has a number of implications. And one of the big implications that I try to explore in the book is it has implications for Black families, the Black family itself, right? So you have, if the family is the sort of the engine of Black economic advancement, then who gets to control and direct the labor? Who gets to make decisions about what gets done with land? Those are going to be really important questions. And the fact is, people aren't always going to agree about that. And so one of the things that I find really remarkable, and here's another thing that I think is hidden when we think about African-American history, even beyond civil rights, is that law at that time put men in charge of family labor. So men literally had a right to the work power of their wives and children, and they used it. They directed it. They controlled it. You can even see people testifying in the court records or in autobiographies saying things like, "My father drove me like a slave." In fact, Clarence Thomas, in his own autobiography, now I'm not going to say you should believe everything that he says, but in his own autobiography, he gets sent to his grandfather's house along with his brother, to work every summer outside of Savannah, Georgia. He's kind of getting sent back to the land to be straightened out.
And I've heard a lot about that happening, getting
Yeah,
sent back to the South so you can learn
exactly.
responsibility or get straightened out or so forth.
Exactly. So Clarence Thomas goes and he says the same thing. He goes to his grandfather and says, "I thought slavery was over." And his grandfather basically says, "As long as you work in my house, it's not." And so you have this Black patriarchy that is actually constructed by law. And you have women and children who have to work under that. And they don't always agree. And often they go to court. And one thing that they do is they sue for divorce. So I think of divorce as, obviously, it's doing a lot of things. People fall out of love. You know, it's a complicated, very personal thing. But one thing that I think is happening in a lot of Black families from 1865 on forward is people are getting divorced sometimes because they fundamentally disagree about Black patriarchal power, this power to boss women and children around.
You know, I can just, based on the history in the South that I know, just my family, extended family, people I know, there were some families like that where the man was just really like a tyrant, you know. But then there were others where everything was cooperative. The women worked. It was a cooperative relationship. In the South, I don't know as much in the North, but in the South, one of the reasons why people had such big families was to work the land. And so everybody was expected to work, the land because that was their livelihood. That was the crops, the animals, all of it. My mother was one of 15, and they owned a lot of land, and she said they had different fields of different crops. They would grow tobacco was the main one, but they
Where
would
was
grow
this?
North Carolina.
North Carolina, not far from where the Holcombs and the Reeveses come from on my family.
Yeah, tobacco is North Carolina and Virginia. A lot of that was the cash crop then, but they also grew their own vegetables and everything. Now, I would go to the South as a kid. Well, I was in the South, but I would go further south as a kid. You
But
know,
say I was in the
I
South,
was
in the South.
but we would
You
go
were already
further south
there.
for a couple of weeks, and we would do some, but it wasn't for. It was really just to show us how to do something. It was really more of an activity. It wasn't, and I wasn't very good at it, but
Nobody was depending on you.
no, nobody was depending on it.
Yeah.
But we did get, you get to learn how crops grow. You get to learn about harvest time.
You absolutely
When
do.
something is ripe and when it's not to pick it.
You
That
know,
was what we
I
were
bet,
learning.
did you also go to church revivals when you were down there?
Well,
I
see,
did.
that's a trick question because
Yeah.
I'm a PK and I was at church all the time anyway.
You were there anyway.
We went to Sunday
Right.
school. We went to regular
DCU,
service. We
you go to
went back for
DCU,
Baptist Training
Baptist
Union.
Training Union. My dad did revivals. So my dad, he was a pastor, but he also traveled and did revivals. We didn't normally go with him, but sometimes we would. And
So did you go to some of those revivals in the South, further south?
everything was in the South.
Yeah.
Everything was in the South. So he traveled a lot. That's a lot of pastors in the South that their churches didn't make enough money to really pay them, for a family wage so they could take care of their families. So doing a revival was a way to make extra money.
Absolutely.
And I would say he probably spent a good quarter of his time doing revivals because they used to be in the spring and the fall. That's the way they would organize them. And we would go, see, I'm telling us a little bit of Southern history. We would go back then, this is when I was a kid, people would feed the pastor's family.
Yeah. The pastor always was able to eat on Sunday.
We would often, as a family, go to someone's home for Sunday dinner. They would feed us, and some of them could cook and some of them couldn't. I will say that.
We won't name names, of course.
You couldn't complain. But that was just the way things were. It was very community oriented. People worked together. I know when we were really small, people would go hunting.
Yeah.
And when they would bring us part of the deer they caught, they couldn't pay my dad that much money, but they would give us some of their crops or whatever.
Those are amazing stories. And
Yeah.
that resonates with me because it comes back to the question you asked me at the beginning, which was, how did I get interested? And I guess the thing that I'll add here is that I'm so glad that I talked to my older relatives, not just looking in the documents. It's so important for us to have those conversations and preserve those memories.
Yes.
And so often I think we live our lives as we should, but it's worth pausing and just thinking about the history that's right there with us. And we need to hold on to that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we spend a lot of time and energy, and I'm not saying they weren't horrific things that happened. But the stories of community, like we were never afraid of.
Yeah, I think we often paint the civil rights age as a time where everybody was scared. I'm actually ghostwriting a man's book right now, and he talked about growing up in New Orleans, and he felt that desegregation actually destroyed the black community in certain ways, because he said we weren't worried about going over there with the white folks. We were fine. We had everything we needed in our neighborhoods. And then when desegregation happened, everybody left those businesses, because now they were finally able to go to the other side of town. So those businesses wound up failing, which meant that the neighborhoods failed.
Yeah,
That is such an important story.
that is true. And also, one thing about during that period, all Black people were living in the same communities, regardless of their status.
Mhm.
So the teachers, the people who were teachers, normally a teacher was considered to be a good job, back during that time. One of the better jobs, because it didn't require labor.
And and also you got paid a steady wage.
Yes.
Right.
They
You
did.
got paid on
And
time.
they were educated too.
And they were educated,
They were educated. So, and some, we had lawyers and doctors. Everybody lived in the same community. So even if you were poor, you got to see and talk to people who weren't. You weren't isolated from an economic standpoint. That was one of the things that happened pre-integration.
I think that's absolutely right. And it's really important to lift that up and to think about the ways that living together in one community, it helped create community.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have to think about what community meant in that context. Community can mean solidarity, but it doesn't mean that everybody always gets along. And you can you can see that again and again. And I think that to recognize that shouldn't threaten our sense of ourselves. I mean, after all that it means, disagreement, strife, it means that we're human.
Now, I know we kind of joked a little bit because you have so many books behind you about saying that you were probably a professor. Are you a professor?
I am. I'm a professor of law and history at the University of California, Berkeley. I'm also the chair of my department. It's called the Program of Jurisprudence and Social Policy, and we train people in the interdisciplinary study of law. So if you're interested in history and law, sociology and law, anthropology and law, that's what we do.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Awesome. I hope your students get a chance to read your book.
I hope so too. But I'm too shy. I'm too shy to assign it to them.
I thought that's what professors did. But anyway, do you have a copy of your book so the audience can see the cover?
I do. Let's see.
They can know what when they order it, they know what they order.
It's a thick book.
It's not bad, but I'll tell you what. The footnotes start about here, so you don't have to read those. You don't have to read those. Only if you're super interested. The other thing I'll say about it is, I tried to write it in a way that people can read who are not professors. I mean, basically, I tried to write it for my family. I dedicated it to my mom. And we talked about it a lot before she died. And so, I made sure that every word on the page would be something that at least I hope she would be interested in and that we could have a conversation about. So I like to think that it's accessible.
Beautiful.
Now, I have one final question, just personally. Where's your family roots? Where's your family history from? Like, are you from California or...
No, people sometimes try to tell me I'm from California and I push back. I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
Okay, I was going to ask my question anyway, though, because I was going to ask, we don't always hear about California when we hear about the civil rights movement. Yeah. So I wondered what made you interested in this. Besides, I know you said it was because you talked with your family, but we don't always hear about California in that conversation. And then you said you were from New Jersey. I thought you were going to say you were from the South.
I thought so too. So
No, so Thomas Holcomb, he, on the recording, he tells my uncle that they were just not making it enough money on the farm. So they moved to New Jersey.
okay.
So there's this whole part of the family that moves up to New Jersey, South Orange, Patterson, Newark.
Okay.
And my mother and father wound up in Princeton, which is where I grew up, right next to the university. But then there's this whole other side of the family that stays in Virginia. Now, why am I in California? I got a job here.
That's why I'm in the DC area, so I understand.
There you go.
Employment takes you wherever.
We
That's
want to
right.
thank you for joining us tonight. This was a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for this book. I'm looking forward to reading it myself. And keep doing what you're doing, and best wishes to you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I had a wonderful time.
Okay, thank you again. And you have a great evening, because if you're in California, that means it's just now 6:30.
That's right. Just now.
It's time for me to go to bed. It's 9:30.
I hear that.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
again.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, before we bring on our final guest, I need to see who won the book.
It was actually somebody different. It was almost Curtis.
Tony Bonita. It looks like
Tony Bonita edged him out.
Tony Bonita, you won the book. So Curtis, you got Exodus from Treachery last week. So if you want to read the Genesis files, you can always go online or to my website to purchase it if you like. I think it's helpful to read the Genesis files first, but they are both standalone books. So anyway, Tony Bonita, you get your copy of the Genesis files autographed. Okay, so our final guest is Natasha Smith, and she has a book that recently came out as well. And Natasha's book is with IV Press, and they were sponsors at the National Black Book Festival this year. So Natasha's book came out at the end of September. It's called Can You Just Sit With Me? Healthy Grieving for the Losses of Life. So Natasha, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hi, thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you for being here.
And how did you end up with Ivy Press? I'm just curious about that, since I met your president and several people from Ivy Press. How did you end up there?
Yeah, so I never planned to write a book, but I feel like it was a God path. He put me on this path to do so. But I guess in 2019, I started kind of writing a little bit pieces of my story. And then 2020 was that big catalyst to launch me into really writing it down on paper, because it was like the turning point in my grief journey of like seeing everything happening in the world. And I was like, that's how I've been feeling on the inside for all these years. And so it needed a place to go. And so I started to write the book and got an agent. And then my agent kind of pitched the proposal to different publishers. And I landed at IVP, which I'm so excited about. They've been really, really good to me.
Wonderful. And it's interesting that you decided to go the agent route. I mean, but in this age where everybody's wanting to publish on their own, they want to do everything themselves. They start their own companies, and you decided to go the agent route because that was the right path for you. It doesn't mean that what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah,
that was the path for you.
Yes, because I had no clue like what to do. So kind of plugging in and for someone to come alongside to kind of help to bring the book into the world, basically birth it. Yes. Yeah, so it was so helpful to me.
So what steps did you go through to find your agent, to identify one and to acquire one? This is a question for people out there who want to. That's one of the most frequent questions we get.
Yes, so it was a process for sure. Oh my gosh. So I started with and of course, his name is probably going to escape me. Oh, Michael Hyatt. He has like he compiled a list of agents. And it's just a free list that you can find online. And so I actually started there with a lot of Googling, but and so I found a list that he had compiled, and just from a Google search, it was kind of advice to kind of start like pitching like maybe 2-3 at a time and see what kind of feedback you get. And so that's really what I did. I Googled how to put together a proposal, Googled how to query an agent.
And things online if you want to find out about it. You have to ask the right questions, but to get the right answers. But you can get information if you want it.
It's true. And the thing about that is I've gotten a lot of no's like along the journey. So every time I received a no, I would get like and sometimes I won't, it was silent. So I didn't get a response back. But most of the times when I got a no, I would get some type of pointed feedback. And so I'll tweak something, I'll tweak my proposal, I'll tweak my query. And then, and so that's how the process went.
Okay. Well, your book is called Can You Just Sit With Me? And is that your title or
it is?
Okay. And what made you come up with that title?
Yeah. So so my story is that I sat with grief for 30 years. So I just walked through a succession of losses starting in my late teen years. Some of the losses include the death of 2 of my sisters, my dad, the murder of my nephew, a miscarriage, a stillbirth. And so it's like a lot of loss. And for years, I didn't know how to process it, didn't know, who to talk to about it, because suffering many of those losses early on, like late teens, early 20s, like in college, a lot of my friends weren't experiencing loss. And so it was kind of like I'm alone. I don't know what to do with this. And so I kind of stuffed it, tried to ignore it, tried to stay busy. I really didn't process it. But again, 2020, I come back to 2020 when everything was like everywhere you turn around, you couldn't escape it. You saw dead bodies on TV, the racial violence, the political year. I'm like, everything is going on in this year. And all I could think about is it felt like death. It felt like grief. And it felt like everything that I was seeing on the outside is how I was feeling on the inside. And so I wrote a piece on that I published or posted to Facebook called Can You Just Sit With Me? And it was really like a heart's cry during 2020. It's like nobody's listening to anyone. Like we're hurting, our Black and brown people are hurting, things are happening in the world, but nobody is listening. So can you just sit with me? You don't have to try to give me an opinion. You don't have to give me advice. I just need somebody to sit with me and let me tell you that this is painful. And so that's where the title came from. And I'm so glad that they kept it.
Wow.
That's beautiful and poignant, really, because sometimes we don't want advice. We just want somebody to sit with us, keep us company. So I think that's a really beautiful sentiment. What gave you the idea for the cover? The cover is very simplistic. It almost looks like a greeting card.
Well, I was so happy because the design team from IVP actually came up with it. So I gave them input, but they came up with it, and I love it because like the little flecks and specks of gold on the cover is kind of symbolizes like light in the darkness of grief. And so they really did a great job, and I was really, really happy with it.
Now, is that the cover behind you?
Yeah, they sent it to me as a gift.
Okay, that's nice. One that you can put. Do you have that you can put closer? Okay, because you can't really see the flakes with one on the wall. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah, and it's textured.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I did such
And
a
you're
great
right.
job.
Sometimes you don't want you don't want somebody to talk to you or give you advice or any of that. You just need somebody to hear you. And especially with grief. I have been blessed in that my losses have not been back to back. Like there's been space between. It
Mhm.
helps you recover from. I've
Yeah.
lost both my parents
Mhm.
and my brother, who's the sibling closest to me in relationship. We were like that,
Wow.
and he died of pancreatic cancer.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry.
And yet, you know, just if you've known anyone who had pancreatic cancer or heard about it, it happens so fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
By the time you know that it's cancer, they're almost gone. I mean, he started losing weight in June. Weight loss was the symptom.
Mhm.
He was dead in December.
Yeah.
That's how fast it just. And so before, and I didn't live in the same city as him, but we were very close and we talked all the time. Before you can really like wrap your mind around
Yeah.
the fact, we didn't find out that he had cancer till September, like late September.
Oof.
And then by the time you kind of wrap your mind around it, it's just he's just gone,
Yeah.
you know. So I I've had a miscarriage too, but I never had a stillbirth.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that. Did you end up having children after that?
Oh
Did you?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we
Well,
have, yeah. Yeah.
well,
So
that's
we're a
good.
family of 4. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Wonderful.
But miscarriages can be traumatic. I can't imagine that the stillbirth. I just
So
can't.
what
But
was the process of you? Did you feel like you were reliving some of this as you were writing the story?
Mhm.
And
Great question.
what was your process as you were writing? Were there times where you had to just kind of step back and take a break for a second, or was it therapeutic to where you could just continue to write because you knew it was for a bigger purpose? What was your thought process?
Mhm. Great question. And it's pretty much all of the above. It was therapy, it was healing, but I cried a lot. Like it was some of the things like I really processed for the first time.
Mm,
Like I literally processed for the first time because I had buried it so deep, almost to the point where I'm like, did this happen to me? You know, because I did not want to think about it. And I was coping in a way that I was okay. And so much so that I like to share. After I wrote my book, I started counseling
right.
because it just unearthed so much. Like it almost was an overwhelm, like I was processing it. And I learned so much from the research, but just it was a lot. It's a lot. And
I'm
so
sure. I'm sure.
yeah, so it was therapeutic. It was a lot of healing, but like you said, I had to take breaks. I had to take breaks from it. It was a lot.
That's interesting that you said you actually went to counseling after you wrote the
After.
book.
Yeah.
Some people say they went to counseling and then that gave them the
Catalyst. That was the
inspiration or the
catalyst.
bravery to write the book.
Mhm.
But it sounds to me like you were saying you thought that you had dealt with all of this fine and everything was good, and then you wrote the book and realized there were some things that you still hadn't dealt with.
Sort of, kind of. So as I knew that I hadn't dealt with a lot of it because I knew I was kind of had ignored it and would push it to the
Buried it.
side and buried a lot of it, especially the early losses.
Mhm.
And so I would say again, 2020 was that catalyst. So I started writing bits and pieces of my story, kind of posting it online because I've been a blogger for a while. So I was writing, but I wasn't really sharing about the grief part.
Right.
But 2020, I started sharing about the grief and it was resonating with people. And I was like, yeah, because a lot of people are dealing with this. We all deal with grief on some level. And so I had got plugged into a particular group, connect group at my church, where we did this, what they call a soul map, or a map, which basically you write out different events that happen in your life and you rate, like you assign a level of pain to that particular event. And so I did that. And of course, I'm like, most of my life is high level of pain. And so it was just at that point, just acknowledging like, okay, you've been through a lot. And so that to me was more the catalyst and giving me like more of permission to go to write it out and to really start writing the story. So I think that was more the catalyst to say, you can do this.
So what's the format for your book? Like, is it part autobiography, part counseling tips?
Yep. So it's broken down into like every chapter has it's broken down in like 3 sections. So the first part is like personal stories. So I share my different grief stories or loss stories in like the first part. And then the second part is academic research, psychology elements, like why are we feeling the way that we're feeling, or just explaining or giving more language to grief or in the grief process. And then the third part is more of like the biblical concepts and biblical examples taken from scripture. And then each chapter ends with a grief exercise. So something that someone can start today, because my main thing, I really wanted to make it practical, like a love story, but I'm like, what can I do today to help me cope? You know what I mean? And so each chapter ends with a grief exercise, and then a meditative scripture and a prayer.
Sounds like a story and a workbook and a devotional all in one.
Yeah,
it's true. It's funny you said that, because several people, a lot of people who've read the book say that. So it's funny that you said that.
Yeah, I was just thinking back on COVID just in general, and all of the people who had lost during 2020 and 2021.
Yes.
When
true.
over 1 million people died. And my father died from COVID. And that was in 2021. So the January. And so there's so many, just about every family has been touched by it in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Even extended family. And some people lost several people.
Yeah.
And then some people that didn't die from COVID, but they died because of COVID, meaning because the healthcare system was stressed, they didn't get to go to the doctor in time to deal with whatever the acute imminent problem was. Mm-hmm. And then it got worse. And so it was a period in the world that it would be hard to describe to people who weren't alive, weren't adults. Mm-hmm. It's like trying to explain 9/11 to people who weren't born.
That's so true.
You can't, it's not something you can put in words, really. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad it's behind us, hopefully, forever. But who knows, there might be some other illness down the road. And COVID's not the first one, that it's just the most recent, but it had been like 100 years since.
Yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm.
So what advice do you give people who have experienced loss, especially multiple losses close together, on how to grow from it, how to get past it?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a process. One thing one of the main things that I like to say is how normal it is. And that people, because at one point I was like, am I losing it? And then after all the really true, and then after all the research, like, no, this is normal. Grief is normal. It comes with so many emotions come along with it: anger, regret, relief. Sometimes we're surprised by the different emotions that comes with it. You're like, I'm experiencing this, but we don't talk about it enough. And so when we experience it, we're like, what in the world? What's happening to me? But it's normal and it's natural.
And we think our coping should be just like everybody else is coping. Okay, but this person got over it in a couple of months, so I should have been able to get over it in a couple of months.
Yes.
Or why is this person taking a whole year or two to get over this? They should be able to get over it quickly. And, we forget that people deal with things differently.
Yes, I love that you said that, because yes, and yes. Well, no two people will grieve the same. And so, we can't compare because we're not going to get it right when we compare. So yes, we all deal with it differently. And so I wanted to get that out there. But just beginning to process is we have to acknowledge it. And sometimes people don't know. I mean, I've had people read the book and tell me, I didn't even know I was grieving. Like they got the book to support someone else. And so they're discovering losses that they need to grieve now. And so it's like, you know, we're, again, our culture, you know, some losses, the culture and society don't even recognize.
Right.
So it's yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all have different coping mechanisms too. I find thinking a happy thought about one of my people that I've lost is helpful, but you do miss their absence.
Absolutely.
But hopefully people have happy scenarios. And
that's a good point.
I hate when people have lost. I know people say they've lost someone and they're not suffering anymore. Neither of my instances was long suffering. Like some people's loved ones are like just wasting away for a year or two, and they have to kind of watch them waste away. That has to be. I didn't have to. That didn't happen for me. But it's good. That's got to be difficult.
Yes. I love that you even brought that up, because one thing is when people are supporting people who grieve, you know, the things that people say, because even if they suffered long or suffered what would be considered a short amount of time, saying that at least they're not suffering anymore, it's not helping my pain.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's like just bringing awareness to the things that we say to people who are grieving, you know, it can be helpful too.
Sometimes I try to give people grace, because some people just don't know what to say in those
situations.
It's
true. A lot of times,
and they're thinking that they're saying something that's going to help or that's going to provide comfort, and it doesn't always provide comfort. So, what do you say to people who they're trying to provide comfort, but they've said the wrong thing and maybe have made it worse? It's like a person who loses a child and they say, "Oh, you'll have more babies." Yeah, that doesn't replace the baby that I lost.
Absolutely. I think like it's all about extending and receiving grace. And so we really do have to extend grace. And so in that moment, we wouldn't say anything to them, but like platforms like this, or, you know, when we're speaking and bringing more awareness to how we can support, you know, those who are grieving, that's when, you know, prayerfully people will become more aware, like, okay, I said that before, I'm gonna try, you know, next time I'll know, you know, how to support better with my words. And literally, even a lot of times, like you said, people don't know what to say because people don't teach us what to say when someone encounters a loss. But really just kind of empathizing, showing compassion, and compassion basically means to suffer alongside, to suffer with. And so if we can just think about, like, I guess almost that saying, like, you know, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and in a sense, like, how would you feel at this moment? Okay, I'm so sorry. That's heartbreaking. You know, that's what, you know, that's heartbreaking. Oh, that breaks my heart. You know, how would you feel? And so I think those type of things, words, phrases are more helpful in supporting someone who suffered loss.
Well, I can see your book being a nice gift for someone who suffered a loss.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes people really don't know what to give. They normally will send flowers. I like to do plants, because that's something the person can keep after, you know, they can keep that after the services and all of that as a, you know, nice reminder. But your book sounds like it would be very helpful in ministries or as a grief gift to someone who's had a loss.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know it's been used that way already. Like I have some people have said, you know, I bought this book for my sister-in-law, my brother, you know, so it is being used in that way already.
Now, do you speak on the topic of grief? Are you doing public speaking?
I have been doing a little bit, like right after the book launch has been like a little bit over a month now. I've been to Cincinnati and Texas, spoke at a conference and at a bereaved mothers event.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Because I know we have a grief ministry at our church. So that's your book made me think about the person over there. I probably need to make them
Yeah.
aware of your book.
Yeah, please.
Use that as a tool.
I think that would be great to contact lots of churches. I mean, the church that I go to has 15,000 people, and I'm sure that they have a grief ministry.
Yeah.
So
That is a good idea.
yeah,
Yeah, that
reach
is.
out to those churches.
Mhm.
I think that's
Thank
great.
y'all.
So what's next for you, Natasha? What do you have something else you're working on for your next project?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I the same week that my book launched, my first book launch, I submitted my manuscript for my second book. And it is it's another loss and grief book, but it's particular to Black women. So it's Black women grief.
Okay.
So it's going to be focused on the grief that Black women specifically endure.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, what makes our grief different?
Yeah, there's so many things. Some of the themes that are within the book, I'll share a little bit.
Okay.
It's kind of like so one thing is the strong Black woman image and how that kind of informs how we may or may not grieve.
Yeah, Rhonda's an expert on that. That was her dissertation.
Oh my.
Mhm.
I need to look up your dissertation.
Yeah.
Look, it's in editing right now. Let me look up your dissertation.
Yeah, my dissertation is on the myth of the angry Black woman syndrome and how it affects African American women in leadership positions, especially executive positions.
It may already be in the book. I'm gonna have to look because I love academic research, and it's that title sounds real familiar. So that's cool.
Okay, well, let me know if you need some words. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, two of the words that are probably most associated with us are angry and strong.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yes.
that is so harmful. I mean, I think that was probably one of the most interesting parts of my dissertation is looking at the Sapphire character and how she evolved into the angry Black woman and how she emasculated the Black man. And I was like, oh goodness, see, don't get me started.
I'm almost positive that I have like your research in my book, which is crazy because that's part of it. Because I have part like strong woman and then the angry woman, but that particular phrase, the sapphire, I got that from research. So this is good.
Shoot, you might have quoted me, girl.
I know. I'm about pretty sure now. That's amazing. Wow.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the time. I mean,
we are. We have like 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left.
Yeah, where are you located?
I'm in North Carolina.
Oh,
okay.
Where?
I'm near in Clayton, but it's near like 20 minutes outside of Raleigh.
Okay. I know the
Gotcha.
area. So yeah, my family's from North Carolina, so I know the area really well. So you have their next book. Do you already have it timed? Like when it'll be out?
No, I think it's sometime next year, but I don't have like a month or anything. No, I guess it's not scheduled yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Natasha, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And congratulations on your book. And I believe that the grief ministry concept and it being a tool for that is going to be a winner for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun.
Thank you for being here. I really enjoyed the conversation and congratulations on the book and best wishes in sales and marketing and touching people because there's some people who really need this message.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, well, have a great evening, and we'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. Thanks again. Have a good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, with at the end of our show, I do want to let people know regarding the National Black Book Festival, we have over 400 photos that I've just started going through. So we'll be posting them on our Facebook and Instagram pages over the next, it's going to take probably 4 or 5 weeks to go through these pictures and label them and identify the people in them and everything. So stay tuned. The first of the batch should post tomorrow or the next day. So we've got tons of pictures, really great photography, and some video footage too.
Yeah, I've already posted a little bit of my video. I still have some stuff I have to post though. So much content.
It's so much content. It was really great.
Yeah.
Well, we're ending our show without our music tonight because our media manager, I think he may be, he got tired or something. He's not on. So we'll just have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
He must be asleep.
You know, you can play the video. This is the same music. Play the video again.
I can't. I don't.
You can't.
The media manager does all of that. All I have to do is come on, which is great. But anyway, we'll see you all next week for another wonderful episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.